Experience the world's most legendary racing events with iRacing. iRacing special events allow any member to compete in full-length multiplayer races based on some of the biggest events in motorsports all year round. Compete in virtual endurance races, such as the Daytona 24, Spa 24, and the Nürburgring 24 Hours. Take on some of the toughest races on the NASCAR schedule, such as the Daytona 500. We have events from disciplines all across the racing world, from the Indianapolis 500 to the Chili Bowl, from the Bathurst 1000 to the Crandon Championship. Our endurance special events utilize iRacing's team feature, where members can sign up and race together on their own team, swapping drivers throughout the race. Other events utilize iRacing Super Sessions, where you're not only racing against those on track, but against every driver taking part. And as every race progresses, watch and feel the track change with progressive time of day, dynamic weather and rain, and dynamic track debris and surface changes. Take on your favorite discipline or try a brand new racing challenge with our biggest races of the year, the iRacing Special Events. Learn more at iracing.com/special-events.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome one, welcome all once again to SimSpeed TV. You know what time it is. It's Wednesday night, which means it's sprint car time. It's round 4 of the ASRG Sprintcar Pro Invitational Series. We're here at Kokomo Speedway for round number 4. This is going to be a super fun night at an incredibly compact oval that nonetheless carries some heavy speed through the corners. There's track evolution, there's heat racing, there's redraws, there's everything you could possibly want from a rollicking night of dirt racing. And we are driving some... Yeah, we're here.
Yep.
Bringing it to you live here on SimSpeed TV. It is myself, Reese Gardner, with Scott Rankin alongside me in the commentary box, Jay Kennedy in the producer's chair. Honestly, Scott, this is one of the rounds that I've been looking forward to the most. Every time that we've come to Kokomo, it has been a fun time indeed. Very tight corners here.
Yeah, tight, challenging, technical, and it's going to work the drivers over all night long as well. There's no easy way around this racetrack. It's going to be up and against the fence as well. And, you know, after the last couple of weeks, we've seen drives through the field, but look at the size of this place. It's small. There's not a lot of room in terms of trying to wind those legs up. There's a lot of width in terms of track compared to tracks that are similar size, but you know, it's not all that easy to get the jobs done. In terms of things tonight, 40 laps. This is one of the longer main events. That says shorter racetrack to me, and that means that the elbow is going to be out.
Oh, for sure. Kokomo Speedway itself only 400 meters in length or thereabouts. And it has a very long history. 1947 it opened, but in terms of sim racing history, the most recent winner is Joel Berkeley, and I'm sure he's the one that a lot of people have put their money on, their virtual money anyway, for the speedwaydraft.com draft. Worth pointing out as well that Berkeley won that in a 360 sprint car. We ran 360s at Kokomo last year. We are running the 410 sprint cars for 2026. So 50 more cubic inches of capacity in these V8 engines and a good dose more horsepower. Let's have a look at those championship standings. Scott, Tim Ryan ahead by 10 points.
It's been a challenging year thus far, and I think it's wiggled back a little bit, back and forth a little bit. The biggest thing, though, is early on this season, we've seen a little bit more consistency than we've seen from anything else compared to last season. Early on last season, we saw a lot of guys up and down the field, not necessarily getting the job done nice and early, and it was very, very challenging, but it's been consistent very, very early on in this one, and that's the big kicker, is get the job done nice and early. The big note, Tim Ryan also up at the pointy end. There's only 12 points covering that top three. You go back to fourth place, it's actually only 14 points covering all those drivers. It gets a little bit shaken up a little bit further down. Harry Stewart will think he probably could have finished a little bit further up. So would have Ethan Foley. Qualified very, very well last time out. And Joel Berkeley, he's probably left some points on the table if we're being honest.
Yeah, indeed. There's been a couple of incidents that Berkeley has been involved in that were otherwise a little needless. So his season has been off to a slightly patchier start than he would ideally like, but still a top 10 in the championship after only 3 rounds complete, and it's a long championship indeed. There's still plenty of time to get that sorted. Well, we're at the moment gearing up for the hot laps going into qualifying to see who gets the quick time. But here's what we're looking at for the condensed format for this one. We actually don't have a redraw, I believe, for this one. So it's going to be straight up. The heat results are going to determine who starts in our top 10 for that 40-lap A main. 8-lap heats with a 12-lap C main and a 15-lap B main for those who weren't able to get into the top 4 in the heats and transfer straight through to the feature, Scott.
Yeah, so unlike in recent history, we've shuffled things about and sliced and diced it. Obviously, it's going to be straight shootout. Where you qualify out is going to be big. That actually makes things a touch more challenging, I think, too, as well, Reese, because it puts actually a lot more emphasis into where you actually qualify. The guy that qualifies on pole, he has the best shot of sticking the whole night together, which all of a sudden makes, you want to qualify up front at Kokomo. Kokomo is such a big racetrack where you got to have track position. There's no other way around it. But then if you're in the first heat and you get the job done from there, you're starting off for the feature on pole. Don't have to worry about it. I think this will be a tricky one. I think we're probably going to see, we've not necessarily had the cleanest heats last week. I know admin and the guys were not really happy with the way they raced last week, but I think it's been pretty reasonable. Tonight's where everything starts to really get condensed and these guys come back together. So a couple bigger tracks, sort the guys out, give them the opportunity to race around each other, new names up and down the field. And I think the big thing as well, American names as well, have been so cool to have over here in this country. But we've got that ironed out in the early bits and pieces of things. Now we're going to one of these smaller racetracks, a little bit more compact, and the racecraft has got to be put together by now. If you're not settled in and you're not feeling comfortable, you're a little bit out of sorts and out of rhythms, this is not a racetrack that you want to come to in that sort of form. You need to be coming in here with confidence, with comfort, with speed, basically, in the race car. Because if it goes bad from the offset, good luck trying to put that night back together. The last couple of racetracks, there's been opportunities to get the job done, get passes made, move your way back through the field. That's not going to be on offer tonight.
Yeah, though Kokomo is quite a wide track, it can be very hard to pass on. These are the previous win records for the last times that we've raced at Kokomo. Joel Berkeley, of course, our most recent winner, as we pointed out, but Harry Stewart has also got recent form here. King of the 360, Ethan Bastian, current competitor this season. David Heilemann, one of the Americans who was joining us some years ago. We haven't seen him in a while, but he had a double win in 2020 in both the Wheelman Challenge and the 360 Power Series. So, I think out of the current field, yes, Joel Berkeley might have the recent form, Harry Stewart as well, but bigger engine this time around and plenty more competition in the field with the standard of competition that we've got. Here are the Speedway Draft picks that we have for this round, Scott. Once again, I've gone with my scattershot strategy, but it's worked for me so far. I currently lead the SimSpeed Comms Box standings, but you are a quite consistent second.
Yeah, and the big thing is, and for those of you who are playing along at home, please keep the picks rolling in because it's actually been a really, really interesting one. Took some notes on board from Ethan Winter early on in the evening as well. His notes walking in here tonight, we've had 5 previous races here, 2 in the 360, 1 in the 410, a couple of wingless races. Harry Stewart and Blake Walsh were big back in 2022. Joel Berkeley, that 2025 winner that you've already sort of mentioned. But the big thing is, Tim Ryan's qualifying has been terrible coming in. Can he get that sorted tonight? I think that's the big part of things. You've gone with that pick, I think, is really, really important. Realistically, the guys that you sort of can't pass at the moment, Aiden Forster and Tanner Pettit, and these guys have just been putting things together with Tanner Pettit Racing as well. But there is that beef. And again, we've already mentioned tight and compact here at Kokomo, but an opportunity for that beef to come unstuck. So yeah, it's going to be a tricky old night. I think actually casting a wider set of things is every opportunity to get the job done. The big one I want to say is my team boss over at Thomas Mitchell and the Vortex Simsport guys, I told him I was putting him in my lineup here tonight, and he said, oh no, please don't do that. Oh God, what have you done to me?
Oh dear. Well, I don't have any team alignments in the dirt world, so I don't have to worry about that necessarily. We're doing the hot laps at the moment to get the track settled in for qualifying, and this is the first time we're really experiencing what Kokomo is actually like to drive. You can see that it's very flat down low. Tim Ryan almost showing off a bit of a negative camber on the bottom there. He is the hard charger presented by My Race Mats. Gained the most positions at Williams Grove, and it was a very good performance indeed from the former iRacing World of Outlaws Sprint Cars champion. But what I'm taking away from those few laps that we did see is the high line is going to result in a lot of speed, but I think while this track is clean, maybe going low is the way to go, Scott.
And you'll probably see that in terms of qualifying as well. Here's the guys as they filed out and put their quick laps down on the hot laps, just to run that track in a little bit. What you'll find is that the low line is where you want to set your fast lap, but coming to that, you want to build up all the momentum. Your warm-up lap really isn't track, so build up as much speed as you possibly can, rip that fence, build some momentum, then get it parked down the bottom. You want a lot of rotation at this racetrack as well, so make sure that not only you're rotating the car, but you got to keep that right rear underneath you. You need some traction there. You definitely got to have some angle on these race cars to have them go quickly, but how you utilize that is the big key.
Well, here we are then in qualifying, presented by Simrat Market. After the hot laps presented by NBS 3D Printed RC and Slot Car Customs. Let's see who comes out on top. Tracking Nick Mithen, part of the Man Up Sim Racing crew. Putting himself 6th on now 7th of the times that have been set, as Matthew Gowans is the current pace setter, first driver into the 10.6 second bracket. And the times will be coming in thick and fast here. It's only about 1 minute and 40 seconds remaining on the time. So let's get these times in. Harry Stewart now to 2nd place. We've still got the vast majority of the field to go.
Yeah, minute and 30 seconds, the 90 seconds on that clock now. Here comes the 88 from Synergy Sim Racing up and against the fence. And you can see from Hobo, he's really trying to add some speed up there. That is a right rear in the fence. That'll be qualifying over. At least the 88 car has put a valid time on the board. Matthew Gowan's going to step up and swing a big lap together. Here comes car number 26 in the KZS Autosports Vortex car for Kobe Noonan. He'll come through 1 and 2, tries to line it up, put the foot down, get some speed together. Puts a lap on the board. Where's it going to be from car 26? Goes a long way up there. Brady Baldwin gets a reasonable time together. Here comes Amez now as well.
Ethan Bastian to the quick time. Has previous form here. Last time he won at Kokomo in ODSC competition was a few years ago, but a 10.379. I think that time may very well stand unless Tanner Pettit, Clayton Davies, Tim Ryan and company can put some fantastic times on the board. Tim Ryan going for the high line initially here. Let's see what he can do as the session enters its final 30 seconds. Oscar Ames to 14th, a nice jump there. Tanner Pettit's first lap done. Tim Ryan up to 2nd, Clayton Davies up to 4th.
Yeah, big times coming in. Less than 20 seconds on the clock now. And the critical factor for that car 98 was setting it up the timing sheet. Pettit has managed to put a lap together. Goes to 3rd fastest. Couple guys left out there. What's force they're going to be able to stick together for us? 11.083. Here comes lap number 2. Through 3 and 4. Power down. 5.20. Won't be to the top, but it's a reasonable lap for Aiden Forster. Checkered flag in the air. Qualifying's done.
Wow, so Simrap Market qualifying, and the quick time goes to Ethan Bastion. I'm not sure any of us had that kind of result in mind, but Ethan Bastion has been looking for some kind of result this season that he can be proud of, and I think that's going to be one step towards it. A fantastic time set by the Allure Esports number 54 as we get ready now for our heats presented by Mono Creative. And it's going to be Ethan Bastion who starts on pole for the first of them here. He's got Aiden Forster alongside him. That is quite the intimidating guy to have alongside you. Starting out of third and fourth will be Bradley Oldfield and Hadley Boyce, the number 51 and 727 respectively. Oscar Ames, with those fantastic improvements towards the end of the qualifying session, starts fifth alongside Ethan Foley. And then we have Daniel Boyd and Trent Gosley on row number 4. Last couple of cars, Henry Fenson and Lachlan Mead. Another all right performance for Henry Fenson, and Trent Gosley finds himself here in the first heat of the night. Let's see if he can advance any further from here, as with the rest of the drivers in this field. Remember, the top 4 from each heat will transfer straight through to the A main. They will lock their grid spots down. Anyone who finishes outside the top 4, they'll be seeded into the C and later B mains. So everyone else has still got a chance tonight.
I think the important factor here, Reese, and a night where we don't have a redraw as well, is you're thinking about first and second here. Well, that's first and fifth when we roll out for the A main as well. So that's really, really important. So that's what it's all about. You know that you're locked into those grid spots. Everybody else that's behind them will start, obviously, where they normally would start, but normally that first and fifth spot out of this heat, that'd be a little bit of a shuffle up. You wouldn't be guaranteed to those slots, but getting into this heat is huge tonight.
Certainly is. Whoever finishes first and second will have their best case scenario starting spots for the A main later on. See there the difference between the high line and the low line. There is a lot more banking right up against the wall, and so that'll lend itself, I think, to some really solid action, especially when the track is worn in a bit more. There's still enough banking there that the high line, I think, won't fall away as hard as it has at other tracks this season. But we're getting ready for the green flag here, and Ethan Bastion is going to be the one leading us away, entering the start zone now, and power down. 410 sprint cars at Kokomo is go for round 4 of the Sprintcar Pro Invitational, and immediately Aiden Forster trying to go for the lead, but Ethan Bastion ripping the top, managing to get the momentum down, and it seems like that's where the pace is at the moment. But Aiden Forster deciding to commit to that low line. He's keeping up with Bastion, which is certainly not nothing. Trent Gosley and Henry Fenson trading spots for 7th and 8th. The battle for the transfer spot is between Ethan Foley and Bradley Oldfield as Gosley drops a couple of positions.
Yeah, and that's going to be a big one now. It's going to be trying to look for any sort of speed that you can possibly find at this point in time. Foley just about gets to the back of the 727 car as well. So contact starting to be made in the middle of the midfield. Bradley Oldfield moves up to that high line. He's starting to try and rip the fence, but the guys down the bottom, they just can't make speed at the moment. It's drive off of that corner. And if you have a look at Foley, he's trying to keep some momentum up. He's got not necessarily the angle on that right rear at the moment. He is starting to lose spots. There's already a group being worn in. Oh, from bottom to top, Gomez comes up and then doesn't find the gas pedal, and unfortunately Foley into the back.
Henry Fenson jumping on the brakes to check up. Got demoted. Ethan Foley now towed back to pit lane with the damage from that. 3 laps to go here in heat number 1, and it looks like Aiden Forster has managed to make the move on Ethan Bastion. A couple of times the number 54 has been getting up into the wall and riding it all the way around the corner. It is not quick to do that. It's a small mistake that's unfortunately cost Ethan Bastion the lead, but he still sits in second, coming up to the white flag. Can Bastion keep Bradley Oldfield behind him, who seems to be supremely comfortable on that middle line? White flag out. Aiden Forster is 1.5 seconds ahead, and in the end, like a pretty dominant performance here in heat number 1. First win of the night goes to the American Aiden Forster.
Yeah, great job by Forster. He'll get the job done nice and early. Bastion, Oldfield and Boyce are going to be your transfer spots. The big thing for Bradley Oldfield, back to 3rd spot after losing a few spots early on. So Highline settled nice and early, and big thing was that flatter track. All of a sudden grip and bite on that right rear corner, not necessarily going driver's way.
So Forster and Bastion will start 1st and 5th for the A main later on. Bradley Oldfield and Hadley Boyce will transfer through to 11th and 12th, I believe, unless I've gotten my seeding completely wrong. But they will get through into the A main. Gosley, Ames, Boyd, Fenson, Mead, and Foley will have to work their way through the alphabet a little later on. Time for heat number 2. We've got Tim Ryan on pole position for this one, with Matthew Gowans joining him on the front row. Gowans is looking for some good form here tonight. Matthew Stables starts in 3rd place, flying the flag of New Zealand in car number 46. Got Lachlan Rogers alongside in car number 2 for Edge Esports. Paul Bryan, car number 42. He's had some fantastic pace this season. Let's see if he can make good on it here at Kokomo, starting alongside Bailey Leeson. Synergy Sim Racing's Brenton Hobson, the most recent new winner in the V8 Scops Championship, starting alongside John Schultz. And then we have Brock Thompson and Hayden Vickers rounding out our 10-car field. Brock Thompson had some really good performances last year. Hasn't quite been up there in 2026, but this could be the chance he has to make good on that. And he's got to pass a few cars to get there first.
Yeah, a little bit of a moment as well on the formation lap, so they're just going to sort themselves out. That pace car is just about to pull off. We are getting set for heat number 2 from Mono Creative. Big opportunity in this one. Tim Ryan will want to lock himself into that feature, but Gowans will be thinking about the points and the larger picture as well. Is P2 good enough? Drive off of turn 4. Here we go. Heat number 2. It's immediately to the bottom for everyone that's down that low side. Gowans going to have to try and find some speed. Not quite got the horses all wound up. There's chaos in the back end of the field. Leeson's got around. John Schultz involved as well. They're going to go tumbling down the order. Ryan's starting to find some speed from that low line. And have a look at Gowans. Comes down to the midline. Looking to try and find some speed, but not yet willing to rip the fence.
Straightens the car up a little bit earlier. That's been giving him some more momentum there over Matthew Stables. So it's Matthew versus Matthew fight for second here behind Tim Ryan, who is looking as comfortable as he ever has been on the inside. But have a look at the momentum that Gowans is carrying there. He is just making a V-shape out of these corners. He's lunging ahead and he's cutting underneath. Oh, whoa, that was close to contact, but of ways to take the lead, that is one of the best. He hasn't quite cleared Tim Ryan, though, who's moving up high, and that's going to send Matthew Gowans to the back of the order. Tim Ryan coming up into him, and that is not an ideal situation.
Here's the thing. That might be listed on Tim Ryan, which means he's going to have to make his way through the alphabet. That means the race controller got a job to do. 6 laps into a heat of 10. This one's critical. Who's at fault there? And there's a big question mark over the top of things at the moment. Paul Bryan started to try and rip around that top. See if he can't find some spots. He has at the moment. He's starting to lock himself in. Look at Rogers. Look at Hobson. The elbows are being shot. Got the car around. Rogers goes around. Hobson moves up in a 5th spot. Up and over. This one is where the elbows have come out. And right rears have come into play.
Yeah, looks like Lachlan Rogers and Hayden Vickers both falling down the order, and Vickers retiring. Brenton Hobson looking at the back of Brock Thompson here. Let's see what he can do to get into the top 4. It's going to have to be quite the run here, but up the front, Tim Ryan is going to take the win on the road. Will he end up keeping it is the question. Matthew Stables and Brock Thompson rounding out your podium. And it looks to me like, Scott, were you saying that race controller decided not to...
They have not. They have not. They have not touched it at this point in time. So, and time's run out on that decision to be made. So there's been no penalty applied for that incident. There's been no penalty applied for anything from that heat at this point in time. So the 4 cars will move on. Will be Ryan, Stables, Thompson, and Bryan. Whether or not Tim Ryan will be sent to the rear of the feature remains to be seen. And I think they've locked it in. So Ryan will be fine with that one. So he will progress from where he was. Gowans does not get out of the heat. How huge is that?
Yeah, very huge. Managing to get 6th in the end, 4.3 seconds behind our ultimate winner. But that just goes to show, if you're running the bottom at Kokomo, you got to be careful not to move up when you know that there's cars using the high line behind. It's a difficult situation to be in because sprint cars don't have mirrors. You can't see what's going on behind you. Anyway, I think we should get through to the grid for heat number 3. Tanner Pettit has got pole position for the 3rd heat, and he's got Rusty O'Neill alongside him. Let's see what Rusty can do there. Riley Hutchison and Harry Stewart. Stewart, a former winner here at Kokomo, is going to start in 4th, with Hamish Canistrari and Thomas Mitchell rounding out your top 6. Then we have Nash Granger and Gary Redcliffe starting 7th and 8th. Last car to start will be Blake Walsh, because the other car on the final row is our race control guy, Liam James. So There we go. We are going to run through these 2 formation laps then, as we find our way to heat number 3. Tanner Pettit has obviously got an awful lot of form, but we're looking at a replay here.
And the big thing is, where does this lane go? And have a look at the speed that's sort of being carried. And you're right, no mirrors, no opportunity to look behind. And Gowans just rips that fence. Look at the momentum he's generating up there. And Tim Ryan's trying. This is just him trying to crack him. He's just trying to get into his head, trying to make sure he knows that he's there. He didn't get a great run through 3 and 4. Gets up there, and there was a car width there. There was a little bit of room between him and the fence. Either way, Gowans has got some work to do if his night is going to recover.
Yeah, I think Tim Ryan left enough space, all things considered, but it might have just been a tiny bit too narrow for Gowans to slip through. There was a lane to the outside. Will there be lanes here in Heat 3 as Pettit puts down the power and immediately moves to the high line? First of our pole sitters to actually start running the high line early on. Seems to be working well for him because he's already put about half a second and change over the rest of the field. Rusty O'Neill holding on to second, but he's just had a huge slide. Harry Stewart making his way up to third as Hutchison and Canistrari had their issues. Canistrari on the inside. He's going to fall back behind Hutchison, and now it's between Hutchison and Stewart for third place. 3 wide and absolutely ripping the power.
And how good was the slide jump from Hutchison, but how good was the response from Harry Stewart when that one back now? Stewart's going to get into it as well. Rusty O'Neill backwards. Stewart in the biff as well. The 28 machine and Thomas Mitchell getting involved. And oh boy, cars backwards, left, right and centre. Find the groove, find your way through if you can. It is elbows out from Kokomo. And have a look at Reese, that track has migrated to the fence so damn quickly.
Oh, it has. Yeah, it's definitely where you want to be now, running that high line. Poor Rusty O'Neill starting on the front row, but it seems the car was getting a bit too sideways for his liking. It looked like, if anything, he was coming down the track on the exit of the corner when Stewart came up on him. Meanwhile, Blake Walsh is really playing with fire here. He is tapping that wall at every opportunity, not quite getting the smooth slide through the corners that you'd usually expect from these sprint cars, but he's done enough to get himself alongside Nash Granger at least to get into third, and Granger doesn't look like he's under too much pressure from Gary Redcliffe for the transfer.
Harry Stewart's heat race is going to be over. Another incident, unfortunately for him. He's done from this one. Work to do as he comes through the alphabet. At the moment, though, Tanner Pettit locks in the white flag. Looks clean, clear, under control. And car number 24 is going to take a heat race victory from Riley Hutchison, Blake Walsh, Nash Granger. Transfers Redcliffe, Mitchell, Canistrari, Harry Stewart and Rusty O'Neill to make it through the alphabet. But I tell you what, the elbows in that one, Reese, they are not leaving much room. The problem is, it's a wide old racetrack, but it's the pinch points and where the grooves come together. And as the track starts to wear out, realistically, the racing surface gets narrow.
Oh, it certainly does. Those pinch points on the exits of the corners are going to be a big talking point for the rest of the night. Those are your heat results in the end. Tanner Pettit taking the victory by almost 3.5 seconds. Still got 2 heats left to run, though. Heat 4 is live, and starting on the pole is our series admin, Brady Baldwin. He's got Cole Ferguson, the man behind Australian Speedway results, joining him on the front row. Kelly Carman, driver that we both picked in our Speedway draft, is starting in third alongside Aston Hurley, with Darcy Wilson starting 5th alongside Ayrton Smith. In 7th place, it's going to be James Oliver, got Kobe Noonan for company, and then Darcy Walker, the 9th and last car to take to the start here. Looking forward to seeing what Walker can do from that last spot. There's, the pattern that we've seen so far on all of these heats is there's almost always been contact ahead, and as long as you have your eyes forward, you might be able to make your way past.
I think the big thing is, Reese, if you notice the dust that's already starting to come out of this racetrack, not a lot of moisture laid down out there tonight. So a little bit less grip, a little bit less tack in that surface, and a little bit more sliding. Here we go. Brady Baldwin from the pole. He's got work to do in car 7. I'll tell you what, Speedy's had this season. He's really stepped up his game.
Certainly has. Hasn't been able to make good on that pace every single round. There was one where he had to step out of the driver's seat and into race control. But he is back on track here. And in the start zone, putting the power down and getting away to a good lead. He decides to go to the high line, but look at that contact there. That is going to send Cole Ferguson all the way to the back. And fortunately, he still has his wings attached, but I don't know if the car is going to work well for him from there. Ayrton Smith has worked his way into second. Darcy Wilson and the number 5 under pressure from Kelly Carmen.
Yeah, Carmen did feed that right rear all the way up to the fence. There was a little bit of contact there. Now he's starting to have to force his way back through the field. And I tell you what, the 64 machine of Ayrton Smith had a little bit of momentum at this point in time. It's going to be trading it between Darcy Wilson and Kelly Carmen as 33 and car 5 go toe-to-toe on lap number 4. And now back up to the fence. And now Noonan's going to get in the back of them as well. As he got a little bit checked up, he slotted back into the line behind Carmen, and there was just nowhere to go for Noonan.
Look at the run from Darcy Walker. He's taken advantage of all of this in the number 29, and he could see a potential move here on Noonan, maybe Wilson. He's literally looking at the last transfer spot at the moment, held on by Noonan and Wilson respectively, depending on how far you are through the corner. That was almost coming down there from the number 5. But this is fantastic racing. As you know, yeah, we keep saying it's such a wide track, but the line narrows up so much here. It's such close quarters. Noonan cuts underneath. The car off there. I think that might have been Ferguson.
That was the lap car. Ferguson just trying to get out of the way. He recognised that once you get lapped, you're not transferring out of the heat. So he was just trying to dive out of the way. Lap 8 of 10, starting to run out of time. 2 more circuits around this place. 800 metres worth of racing in the Mono Creative. Heat number 4. Here comes Noonan, trying to look for a little bit of drive towards the rear bumper. And now with Darcy Wilson. But how about Darcy Walker? It's Darcy and Darcy. One of them will transfer. One of them will go home at this point in time, all the way through to the alphabet. And it's going to be Walker who gets to the bottom. Noonan with some walk to do on that high side. Can he try and find some speed? Yes, he can. Just gets it done over Darcy Walker. Wilson with the celebratory up and over in car number 5. Grabs P4, grabs a transfer.
Brady Baldwin ultimately winning that one by a second over Ayrton Smith, who I think really surprised us all with his pace there. Kelly Carmen and Darcy Wilson join them in transferring through to the feature. Then Noonan, Walker, Hurley, Oliver and Ferguson having to work their way through the alphabet later on. One more heat before we get into our C and B mains. On pole position for heat number 5, presented by Mono Creative, it is Clayton Davies. He's got Jacob Freeman in car number 18 alongside him on the front row. Then we have Baxter Truchet joining Zach Rattray White on row number 2. Rattray White's looking for some good results here. He's got raw pace in these cars, as has Dan Grimshaw. Riley Jones joining Grimshaw on row number 3. Gavin Chatham, who joined the series last time out at Williams Grove and managed to get an excellent result for his troubles, is going to be starting alongside Nick Mithen on row number 4. And Nathan Norman, our last car on the grid for the final heat. Now, looking at this starting order, Scott, I would expect Davies to potentially run away with this, but I'm interested to see how Chatham's going to be doing from 7th.
Yeah, every opportunity to try and cut away, and Chatham's did make his way through the field, made a little bit of speed. Outside of row number 2 is going to be difficult for Rattray White. Riley Jones and Dan Grimshaw, keep an eye on them to try and cut their way through in the early runnings of this one. Pace truck to the infield, parks it up on pit lane. Here we go for heat number 5 of 5.
That's an excellent start from Davies, and it looks like Freeman's going to try and follow him there. The dive to the bottom from every other car. An excellent run out of turn 2 from Zach Rattray White as he... Oh, there's contact, and he's been sent into the wall. Oh, dearie me. It's over for Zach Rattray White. He is on his roof. There's no coming back from that. Clayton Davies is still leading, but it's between Chatham and Freeman for the last spot on the podium. Nick Mithen chasing them and looking to get into the transfer.
And the big thing is, all this heat format, just all about aggression. Ain't no time where ain't enough time for it to start to kick in, but the track will start to change its way out. Chatham's managed to gather himself 4 spots at the moment from 7th on the grid. Through to 3rd would be a lovely night to grab a transfer spot for him as well. Jacob Freeman starting to try and close in to see if he can't put at least that car a little bit further up the field. Nick Mithen with lava transfer takes the bottom line away. A little bit of elbow rubbing and a lot of angle on car 44.
Nick Mithen stuck on the inside here, doesn't have the speed down low. He's trying his best to build that momentum up. Still got 4.5 laps remaining for him to get it done there on Jacob Freeman, but he needs to keep an eye out for Riley Jones, who's actually monstering the bottom at the moment and looking quite fast indeed. 11.7 on the last lap, matching Mithen, but he got 0.3 out of him on the previous lap.
Here it comes through to take the start of lap number 8 for these guys a little bit deeper in the field. Have a look at the slide. Have a look at the angle from Jacob Freeman. Have a look at him trying to get all the way up towards the fence. He's going to try and take that nose away. No, backs in what he knows. He's going to continue to try and rip that top side of the track. 2 to go in the last of the Mono Creative heats here tonight from Kokomo and Nick Mithen. Back to that inside. He is finding a little bit of talent. If there's any mistake and an opportunity from Jacob Freeman, there is going to be car 44 into that heat.
Well, across the line to finish the race there for Clayton Davies. Great heat win, but it's still on between Freeman and Mithen. Mithen trying up the inside. Drag race to the line. It is won by Jacob Freeman, who will transfer through into the A main, along with Clayton Davies and Baxter Truchet, who will start 5th and 10th respectively when we come to it. Gavin Chatham rounding out your podium there. Mithen just missed out on getting into the transfer there, but it was a stellar drive with Riley Jones, Nathan Norman, Dan Grimshaw, and Zach Rattray White unfortunately having to work their way through the alphabet. Grimshaw and Rattray White didn't get much mileage at all there, but we'll see what more can be done here as they make their way into the C main, presented, of course, by Wimmera Dry Cleaners. Nathan Norman starting on pole with Henry Fenson alongside on the front row. John Schultz and Harry Stewart starting 3rd and 4th. James Oliver is starting in 5th place alongside Dan Grimshaw. And then we have Lachlan Mead and Lachlan Rogers. It's a Lachlan lockout of row number 4. Rusty O'Neill and Cole Ferguson round out your top 10. And then we've just got 3 more cars. Zach Rattray White, Ethan Foley, and Hayden Vickers. All drivers that would have hoped for better in the heats. But this is their chance to keep their night alive. If you finish in the top 4 of this one, you transfer into the B main. And then if you finish in the top 4 of that, you transfer through into the feature. Anyone who finishes outside the top 4 in this one will be going home.
Yep, here we go. As we get our setup for this one all started from the back end of the field. This is it. Not that many spots on offer here tonight. And from Kokomo, we've already seen it's tricky to get your way through that field, so it's critical to get it right. 4 from this heat into the C main, and there's the launch. Backs him all the way up from Nathan Norman. Gets a great drive off of turn 1. Henry Fenson got away pretty reasonably. Have a look at him scatter 4 wide in the midfield and leaning on each other in the bottom rope at the moment. In the middle of that pack. And it's going to be that 76 machine of 75 of Dan Grimshaw trying to get it done. I can tell you, Hayden Vickers' night is over.
It's a shame for Vickers. They are cutting back and forth for the lead, though. It's between Norman, Stewart, and Fenson, and Henry Fenson up the inside here is making things work. But Harry Stewart trying to run that high line, sticking more towards the middle. It seems like no one really wants to run up against the wall in 3 and 4, but we're seeing Stewart try it there in turns 1 and 2, and it seems to be working out for him pretty nicely. But Henry Fenson, a true contender for the win here in the C main.
Yeah, and he's ripping the very, very bottom of the racetrack, almost all the way down on the tyre bundles at this point in time. Trips a little bit off the bottom, and he's probably cost himself just a fraction worth of time. Big old send from James Oliver on the bottom, takes 2, goes from 4th through to 2nd. Now he's going to return to the top shelf. Here comes James Oliver. He wants to transfer out of this one. He's got the skates on, Reese.
He certainly has. Excellent move from James Oliver. Henry Fenson staying with him, though, and staying alongside. It's brought Nathan Norman, Dan Grimshaw, and Zach Rattray White into the battle for the last transfer spots, and it's swapping between Norman and Grimshaw for it at the moment. Oliver up the inside of Fenson, pulling the slider, and Henry Fenson goes for a big slide himself down low. Looks like he might have lost the momentum there. He's going to get swamped out of this. Norman and Rattray White. Norman into the wall.
Yeah, Norman's had control of this heat at different points throughout the night. Now Henry Fenton trying to use the bottom to defend. Rattray White tries to cover him off, take that momentum away. He's trying to lock in P3. Here we go, 3 to go in the heat. It'll become 2 to go when they get back by the start-finish line. Time's starting to run out from that C-Main. And if you want to keep your night alive, you've got to take points from this one. Stewart's got it locked in. He's out to just over a second in terms of the lead. Fenton and Rattray White getting the elbows out. Has Nathan Norman and Dan Grimshaw got anything? White flags in the air. And that battle pack that had 4 in it, they threw everything they had at each other. Fenton finally made a mistake. He will get away with one, but Dan Grimshaw and Nathan Norman led laps in that one. And is that a little bit of biff after the flag to say, hey, I am not happy with how I raced? Well, guess what, boys? There's only 4 that transfer out of that one, and if you were on the back end of that, you did not get lucky, and it's going to be James Oliver from Harry Stewart from Zach Retro-White. I tell you what, Oliver stole it at the flag too. See that? 34 thousandths of a second.
Yeah, I just watched that myself. It was right outside of the frame. He got a great exit out of turn 4, and there was contact on the way to the line as well. So, yeah, nice steal there from James Oliver. Stewart, Rattray White, and Fenton will join him in transferring through to the B main. Unfortunately, it is goodbye to Dan Grimshaw, Nathan Norman, John Schultz, Loughlin's, Rogers and Mead, and Cole Ferguson, who was not able to make it to the finish. We had a couple other drivers retiring from that one as well. Rusty O'Neill, Ethan Foley, and Hayden Vickers, who was out on the first lap. Real shame, but hopefully future rounds bring the luck that they need. It's time for the B main. Trent Gosley and Brenton Hobson on your front row, and then we'll have Gary Redcliffe and Kobe Noonan who start on row number 2. 5th place, Nick Mithen got Oscar Ames alongside him. And then we have Matthew Gowans and Thomas Mitchell on row number 4. Darcy Walker and Riley Jones will round out your top 10. And then Daniel Boyd and Bailey Leeson, 11th and 12th. Quite a few cars taken to the start of this one. Hamish Canastrari and Aston Hurley, 13th and 14th. And then finally, it's our top 4 from the C-Main. James Oliver and Harry Stewart on row 8. In the 9th and final row, Zach Rattray White and Henry Fenton. The B-Main, presented by McSlide Race, is upon us, and the power is already put down up the front. Great start from the front of our field. Kobe Noonan trying to sneak round the outside of Brenton Hobson to get it, but he gets up on 2 wheels into the wall. The suspension is broken.
Yeah, car in the fence and going backwards. Now it's going to be Gosley and Amos who try to jump away to an early lead. Have a look at Thomas Mitchell trying to rip for that 5th spot at the moment. It is duking it out here for the final transfer spots. All the way up and against the fence. Has Tar 28 got anything for us at this point in time? Look at the 288s throwing at each other. Redcliffe and Hobson are basically just changing blows at this point in time. Card out of the bottom. I think that's... No, Gowans is up against the fence. Harry Stewart's trying to find some time. Hamish Canastrari's trying to rip all the way down on the tyre bundles. There is nothing in it. Throw a blanket over them as we get through 4 in the B-Main.
Nice run up from Harry Stewart up to 9th and now 8th as he's trying to make his way past Hamish Canastrari. Still 10 laps to go here, and it looks like we'll have Trent Gosley holding onto the lead nicely, but he is running a slightly lower line than Oscar Ames is. Checking back a bit further here to Harry Stewart, who's trying desperately to advance forward, but he keeps getting into the wall. Together with Zach Rattray White on the exit. That was almost a crash, but Stewart has definitely lost his front wing. That's not ideal at a tight track like this. Cars together further back there. I think that's Redcliffe.
It is Redcliffe going back down through the field, so now it's going to be Gosley from Amos, Hobson and Mitchell. Darcy Walker's in hot pursuit. He is looking to run these guys down, but at the moment it is going to be that 28 machine that holds down the final transfer spot. Work to do. Still time to get through this one. Only just over halfway through the B-Main, and time is starting to run out if you're towards the back half of this one. Darcy Walker's about 0.8 of a second at the moment away from a transfer spot. Hobson and Mitchell are now starting to go toe-to-toe. This is Amos versus Trent Gosley for the lead. Amos ran him down. Has stolen that lead away from the number 4 car of Gosley. Gosley's still trying to find some speed, but as he's starting to go backwards, is he going to come to the clutches of Mitchell and Hobson? And what about Darcy Walker and Matthew Gowans? Gowans has had it all to do tonight. A lot of work to do after damage in the heats. Can he make it out of the B-Main with 5 to go?
Yeah, that's the question. Here we go then. Oscar Ames across the line and making it 4 to go as we find our way to a 1.4 second lead that he has over Trent Gosley. And Thomas Mitchell is going to steal 2nd place round the outside there. Does Gosley have the pace on the inside line to get it done there? But I'm not sure he can. That's going to be the run And the momentum on the side of the number 28 of Thomas Mitchell, Darcy Walker and Brenton Hobson together for the transfer spot. And Hobbo can see that chance slipping away to make the A main grid. But can Walker keep it out of the wall? Last lap, white flag out. Who's going to take this one? Oscar Ames is incredibly pacey here today. He's going to take the win on the road with Mitchell and Gosley rounding out the podium, and it's Walker who takes the last transfer spot from Hobbo.
And Hobbo held that one for 14 to 15 laps. Only at the very tail end of that one did he finally relinquish that spot into the A main. But I tell you what, there will be celebrations in Western Australia as car 28 drove his way through into the B main. I can tell you that will be a very, very happy team boss. He was not all that happy when I told him on the phone earlier tonight that he was in my picks. After that B main, I think he's going to be absolutely wrapped that he's in the final 4 cars into the feature.
Yeah, I think so too. And as a Perth boy myself, I'm very happy to see that kind of result there for Thomas Mitchell. Well, regardless, that is going to be goodbye to Brenton Hobson and Matthew Gowans, as well as Henry Fenson, Zach Rattray-White, Gary Radcliffe, Hamish Canistrari. There are names missing from that transfer field there, which really expected to see up there. Unfortunately, it just seems like the likes of Rattray-White and Stewart, they could not make their way up as far as they wanted. So anyone outside of the top 4 here is going to be going home. And that's going to be the final runs for Daniel Boyd, Nick Mithen, James Oliver. They were the last cars to finish. Stewart out 7 laps from the end. Leeson and Riley Jones out 13 laps from the end. And on lap 2, Aston Hurley and Kobe Noonan, unfortunately, were taken out of the race. Noonan getting into a car and then subsequently the wall.
Yeah, trouble. I think the big thing is that was actually probably the cleanest that we've seen of the door-to-door racing all night. Like, there was definitely a few bits and pieces and guys that had moments on that initial start, and I think you're going to get that here at Kokomo, and there's not really a whole bunch that you can do about it. But the big thing is that we got good racing in that one, and we got an opportunity for them to stretch their legs, to run that track in a little bit, to really search around the racetrack for a little bit of speed, and that line moved. It was up against the fence, and it was down the bottom, and, you know, again, guys were making speed at the top, but not at the bottom. Really, really unlucky, though, for Matt Gowans, you know, to go toe-to-toe with Tim Ryan, be very, very tight, and not to make his way out of the heat. He would have been upset with that, but he would have been sitting there going, there's an opportunity. I can still make my way through the alphabet, but he just didn't make it. Man, that's tricky. That was tough.
Yeah, certainly was. And, whoa, it looks like we have gone straight to the feature from here. So very quickly, we'll give a big thanks to Influenced Clothing Company, the sponsor of Round 4. Find them on Facebook. It's an unconventional spelling of the word influenced, so it should be pretty easy to find them. A fantastic company by Stacey Hamilton, who is... Casey Hamilton, my apologies, who is a figure in the dirt sim racing scene here in Australia and New Zealand. Some fantastic products that they offer, and one of many fantastic sponsors that we have here for the ASRG Sprintcar Pro Invitational Series. Starting on pole for our A main tonight, it is Aidan Forster. He's got Tim Ryan alongside him. In 3rd place, we got Tanner Pettit. He's got Brady Baldwin alongside. And then we have Clayton Davies and Ethan Bastian, 5th and 6th. In 7th place, we have got Matthew Stables and Riley Hutchison. Ayrton Smith is going to round out the top 10 with Baxter Truchet alongside. Bradley Oldfield and Brock Thompson are going to be starting 11th and 12th. Blake Walsh and Kelly Carman, 13th and 14th. Our 8th row of the field, Gavin Chatham and Hadley Boyce. And then we have Paul Bryan, Nash Granger, Darcy Wilson, Jacob Freeman, Oscar Ames, Thomas Mitchell, Trent Gosley, and Darcy Walker rounding out our field. There is an awful lot of cars getting ready to go to the start here, and we're immediately away. The Tanner Pettit racing cars all swarming here at the front amongst Tim Ryan, who manages to consolidate 2nd place and is running as high as he dares, as is a few others in the field, but not all of them. Seems like up the front, they want to be running that high line, but in the midfield, it's the middle of the track, which is where you want to be.
And the big problem is in the midfield, you kind of can't stretch your legs because you can't get all the way back up to that fence. And you've got to be really brave ripping that fence. You've got to be all the way against it. If you're any way down the racetrack, all of a sudden you're not maximising that race line. And there's already some contact in the middle of the field. One car down to the bottom and already done out of the heat. I think it was Trent Gosley was off the back end of the starting grid. There's still 4 wide in the middle of the field as well. Car 51, I think that was Oldfield starting to get a little bit out of shape. Not necessarily able to find the drive offline.
Ethan Bastian, who managed to get the quick time in qualifying, 6th place for the moment, and he's swarming in front of this pack here. Brady Baldwin in the midst of it all and trying his best to move his way back forward.
Blake Walsh.
Oh dear. That's not ideal for Blake Walsh. There's no turn in that car. Oh, that's not ideal. Well, he'll bounce off the wall and into the infield. He's still trying to roll it though. That car has no response as Tim Ryan now fights for 2nd place with Tanner Pettit.
I think there was another car, Kelly Carmen, I think it was, just got the fence off of turn 2. So he all of a sudden got checked up. That's in and around where Oldfield is yet again. Car 5, car 51, car 33, all about throwing big old moves at each other. It's going to be Oldfield up against the fence. Kelly Carmen's in the middle, all the way down the bottom side at the moment. It's 05. It was actually, I think, Nash Granger. Well, the other 5's in there as well. It was, in fact, Darcy Wilson who's on the bottom of the track, but he's just not making speed all the way down there at the moment. Already chalking up the laps nice and quickly. 10 already ticked off and a quarter of the way through this in our final race of the night in the feature.
Yeah, Tim Ryan trading spots with Tanner Pettit for the last few laps, and there was a bit of contact between them on the way through. Pettit shuffling Ryan wide on the way through turns 1 and 2 a few laps ago. That's brought Clayton Davies right into it here in the battle for the podium, and Ethan Bastian is close in tow, just emerging into the bottom of the frame there. See again how much dust we've got here. There's no moisture left in the circuit now. There was no track reset between the B main and the A main. So the drivers are really dealing with some slippery cars at the moment. Matthew Stables falling down the order a little. We are here on board with Aiden Forster, who's on board with lap traffic.
Yeah, a lot of problems trying to chuck his way through. Remember, it's only a 10-second lap time and you've got 24 cars trying to cut your way through. So it's less than half a second per car at the moment. The problem is that racetrack is starting to wear out up and against the fence. Big contact. There was one of the cars up at the tail end of the field that got 2 wheels off the ground. Up and against the fence. Hadley Boyce is starting to lose spots. And you want to be against the fence now if you possibly can. But that slick side is starting to wear its way out all the way up there. You are taking risks. You are challenging. You are making mistakes. If you make a mistake, if you make contact at any point in time, Thomas Mitchell was just made some contact. I think it was car 64 who he got into. There's another car. So already the elbows have already been thrown quite a number of times. It is difficult to try and find some free air on this racetrack.
Yeah, there is no clear space at all, really, for our leaders who have now dispatched something like 3 cars to the back of the field. Matthew Stables trying to stay in 11th spot there. He's fighting with a lapped car, evidently, for track position. Looking a bit further back, Tanner Pettit losing some spots to Davies, Bastian and Hutchison, and he's getting biffed about here. Baxter Truchet and Brock Thompson now make their way past the American and back to 8th place for car number 24. He needs to try and find some rhythm here. We are just about to reach the halfway point of the A-main.
Boy, that's fighting its way off very, very quickly. And the problem is, if you're at the back end of this field, you are up against that fence trying to make time, but so is everybody else at this point in time. To move past a couple of cars, you're going to move around on the racetrack. Aiden Forster just got checked up. There was a big accident. First caution of the night. 22 laps in. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. That was a long, long run in the feature. But the big thing, Reese, have a look at the surface at the moment. Have a look at how much shine is out on that racetrack and have a look at how difficult it is.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, SimRat market replay here of what happened. Bradley Oldfield got together with Kelly Carmen. They were biffing about here out of turn 2 as Tanner Pettit made his way past him, and then looks like the cars just got sucked into each other. Fortunately, Oldfield ends up on all 4 wheels, but jury's still out on how the suspension is going.
Yeah, you'll have a few little issues to try and work out with, certainly with that one. But fast repair window has already shut, so there's no opportunity to take that fast repair. If you've got damage, you've got to ride with it at the moment. The big thing is, though, Tanner Pettit's coming down the pit lane. That might be his day done, you know? Yeah.
That's not ideal there. Pettit, once again, falling down to 8th. In the midst of all of this.
This will be interesting. This will be interesting. We need to go back to our lead. Have a look at Tim Ryan all the way up on that high side. This is an opportunity for him to pick off at 8 and Forster. Double file for this restart, not single file, because we had such a long run.
Yeah, for sure. Mystery as to why Tanner Pettit pulled into pit lane there, but green flag flies and we are away to start the 23rd lap of this feature. Forster and Davies, the Tanner Pettit Racing 1-2 at the front of the field, but still under threat from Tim Ryan and the Logitech G machine. And keeping the rest of the cars behind them, Ethan Bastian still holding on to that top 5 spot. Checking a bit further back there to Baxter Truchet, who gets into it and into the wall. It looks like that might be Bastian, who's one of the cars that's fallen down the order there.
Yeah, a lot of spots lost, unfortunately. Brady Baldwin, series admin, said he's got speedy tonight. He was able to maximize it out of the heats. Feature, things not gone his way. And unfortunately, that'll be day over for car number 7. My word. The problem is, Reese, restarts. What do? They bring more restarts. Batch that field back up together. And he was already up and into it on his own. And then he got a little bit of help.
Suspension broken front right for Brady Baldwin. Ended up tagging another car on the way up. I think the Simrat Market replay should come back, though, to see what happened to Ethan Bastian. He ended up getting into the wall, and then where the outside path joins up with the circuit on the back straight, there's a part where the wall juts out. Bastian collected it. So while Truchet was there with him, we'll see it here, right there is the contact. Ultimately, I think Ethan Bastian might have just done that to himself.
Yeah, might have been a little bit all on his own, unfortunately. Here we go, another restart. Back up to double file. We are going to have 16 laps to go when we get back to the start-finish line. Tim Ryan lost a few spots on that the previous restart. All the way to the bottom of the racetrack for the Altus engineering car. Tries to get back to the top. Logitech G trying to swing it back around.
Back.
Another caution back out. And this one will go to single-file restarts.
Yeah, no surprise there. Looks like some issues down low with the number 28 of Thomas Mitchell. No, actually, not Thomas Mitchell. Bradley Oldfield getting into Nash Granger. Looks like that's what brought the caution out. Oldfield was sailing into the first turn. Ultimately couldn't get it slowed up in time, and Nash Granger, at green number 5, was completely innocent there.
Yeah, so that's the problem as well. Like we said, it's a wide old racetrack, but everyone's you're trying to read the cars on each restart as well. And there's 4 or 5 different lanes here and ways that you attack the corner. You're just trying to read everyone that's around you. So keeping our eyes on the 5 machine up and against the fence.
Nope. Looks like that's the that's a different time period that we were looking at. Try that one again. Let's see what happened to you, Scott. Boom.
Ooh. Again, that's just trying to read the lanes, right? You don't know where the car ahead of you is going to go, and you just sort of got to pick where you think he's going to go, and just missed it.
Yes, it's those small misjudgments that really make the difference in racing like this. Let's see if this single file restart brings us a slightly cleaner run to the finish. Tim Ryan hitting the tires down low and almost getting into our leaders there as Clayton Davies just manages to keep Tim Ryan behind him. Got Matthew Stables on there down low. There's contact with Tim Ryan there, and ultimately Ryan's going to stay behind Stables, but it looks like Matthew is pretty content to run that tight line all the way around the inside.
Well, if you got a good thing that works, keep running it down at the bottom at this point in time. The thing is, if he's up against the fence, he's single filed out, not really going to start to go anywhere, so he's going to continue to try and rip the bottom. Here's car number 48, Tim Ryan. What's he going to be able to show in terms of speed? You got to run it perfect up and against the fence. Risk versus reward. If you want to win this thing, you've got to try and create that speed from the top end of the racetrack. But at the moment, it is starting to work for Clayton Davies, who's got his way through to P2. It is so close between these guys. Comes off the fence as the lap car. Stables will take it away from him in the middle of the turn. Where does the lap car go? He's going to have to stick it right in the middle of the racetrack and do the best that he possibly can. But this is tough. This is tricky. And have a look at back to Truchet.
Yeah, he's had a great run here off this last restart, up to 5th place, 5 spots up from where he started, and looking a little bit more comfortable than Tim Ryan up high. See how sideways the Altus car gets, and it seems like Truche is just able to keep the momentum up here. The dust, though, that you see there up high, they are firing it into these corners, not entirely knowing where they're going to end up. That's why we love dirt racing so much. Everything is just thrown to chance at every instant these drivers are on this racetrack. Truche, though, is going to make his way into fourth, actually, now, because Matthew Stables down low, the low line doesn't seem to be working for him now.
Yeah, now it's going to be trying to move around. Where does that grip start to eventuate? Where are you going to start to find speed as you move your way through the field? Stables is still trying to look for something. Tim Ryan and Clayton Davies just about getting it into each other for P2 at this point in time. And Ryan's trying to start to come back at him. Starting to run out of time here in our feature for tonight. And it's still not really going to be any speed in that second and third spot at this point in time.
Caution!
The yellow flag is out. We're going to re-rack him and restack him late on in this one. What, 4 laps? 3 laps? I think it's going to be 3 when we go back to green.
This is going to be very interesting indeed, and I'm not entirely certain what brought out the caution here, but we're looking at Darcy Walker, so there's potential that he might have been the car that brought the caution out there. It's presently a
broken suspension. You see that?
Oh yeah, oh very much so. It's hopping up high. So 3 wide. It looks like Thomas Mitchell, one of the cars on the inside here. Mitchell gets into him, washes up high on the exit of turn 4, and ultimately there was nothing that Darcy Walker could do. Thomas Mitchell has been given an end-of-line penalty for his part in that contact, so that's going to ruin what was a good run for him here. How many positions can he make back up in just 3 laps? It's a 3-way tie for hard charger between Darcy Wilson, Jacob Freeman, and I believe Oscar Ames as well. So you never know.
11th.
Yeah. Let's see how far they can make it into the top 10. Got the restart going, though, and it looks like a little bit of a bog down there from Davies.
Kelly Carmen got a terrible restart, got the thing all out of shape, and it was on the nose of Darcy Wilson. Here comes Clayton Davies back through, as the slide job does not work for Tim Ryan and car 98. Running out of time. There is going to be 3 more transitions, 4 more to go as they start past the start-finish line at this point. It's going to be Forster from Davies at the head of the field. Stables is still trying to find some speed down low. He's waiting for a mistake. Any opportunity he can possibly get the pass. 3 to go as they cross the line from Kokomo.
Looks like it might actually be 2 to go. This is lap 39, and Aiden Forster coming round to take the white flag here. And he is ahead enough that I don't think he has to worry about Davies and Ryan, but who's going to get it done here for second place? Ryan has to try something, and he goes up the inside of Davies, who checks it up. The number 20 takes the win, with Clayton Davies just beating Tim Ryan to the line. Truche and Hutchison rounding out your top 5. Excellent form from them. And in the end, it's a 2-way tie for hard charger between Darcy Wilson and Oscar Ames. So I get the feeling the hard charger award might have to be split this time.
Well, one driver's a little bit further up in the pecking order. Does that mean he normally gets it? I would assume so, but car number 20 from the United States of America, iRating of 10.8K. Aiden Forster gets it done in Kokomo. How about the celebrations too down the start-finish straight? And he is going to take himself all the way up to the Kokomo Speedway victory lane.
Heck yeah, nicely done. Well, what a night of racing that was once again, and we've managed to get it done just inside an hour, which is frankly incredible. Aiden Forster, 1.2 seconds ahead of Clayton Davies in the end, with Ryan rounding out your podium. Good result there for Forster and for Ryan. And Baxter Truche as well, getting P4 out of that. Fantastic form at this tight little bull ring. Riley Hutchison running at your top 5 ahead of Matthew Stables and Brock Thompson. And then it's Darcy Wilson, Kelly Carmen, and Oscar Ames rounding out your top 10. So I would imagine Darcy Wilson's going to get the My Race Mats Hard Charger Award next round.
Yeah, that he might. And great job. Have a look at them deeper in the field. Freeman from Bryan, Chatham, Oldfield, Walker Mitchell, Etten Smith off the lead lap. Hadley Boyce 2 laps down. Retirements from that one. We saw what happened to Ash Granger and Ethan Bastian, unfortunately for them, not making it to the tail end all the way down in 20th spot. 4 more over the page to round us up in the influenced clothing feature here tonight from Kokomo. and it's going to be Brady Baldwin, unfortunately for him, with his issues. Tanner Pettit also not getting the job done, so that's going to be a loss of points for a few drivers up and down the field in the draft standings. Blake Walsh and Trent Gosley both did make the feature. Trent rolled off of 24th. He will come home there after only putting one lap in. Incident on the opening lap for car number 4.
Oh, wow. Yep, a lot of drivers will be unhappy with how things have gone tonight, but one driver who's going to be happy as Larry is Aiden Forster. Car number 20 across the line in P1 after winning his heat. Aiden, that was quite the intense feature there, starting from pole and winning, but the numbers don't tell the full story.
Yeah, that was a fun track. Honestly, I had a lot of fun. We don't get to race Kokomo too often, so it's pretty cool to come here. And yeah, we got a really long green flag run at the beginning there, and I was able to stretch out a really good lead. Felt really good, and those lap cars kind of stalled me out there a little bit. And luckily, the caution came out. Wasn't really anywhere to go there, so thankfully that came out. Got us some more green flag runs and clean track. And yeah, car was dialed tonight. Can't thank Tanner enough. And yeah, it feels good to get another one of these.
Yeah, certainly it must from behind the driver's seat. But yeah, the way the track was evolving, it looked quite slippery up top a few times. And as you say, that lap traffic really bringing the drama. Quite often around super short tracks like this, you do have to deal with navigating other cars, even if that's not for position.
Yeah, exactly. With it being this short of a track and the lines we were given there, it was tough to get through lap traffic. So, like I said, thankfully the caution came out right after I got there, and we didn't really have to battle too much through lap traffic because that would have got interesting. But like I said, all in all, a good night. Hopefully, we can make up some more points. We had a rough first night, so just keep clicking these off, and we'll get ourselves up there and the points lead.
Well, hopefully, we're talking to you again at Lanier in 2 weeks' time, Aiden. Anyone else you want to thank before we let you go?
Yeah, first of all, and most importantly, can't thank Tanner Pettit enough at TPR. He puts in a lot of time to get all us TPR guys to speed we need to compete with these guys. Can't thank Jimmy P. Mac Tools, 1425 Photography, Aces Up Sim Sports, CD Cinematography, Trackside Collective, Blake Carrick Racing, Ethan Johnson, and SimRap Market for all the support that they gave us.
Fantastic stuff. Aiden Forster for Tanner Pettit Racing, finishing at P1. We'll see you next time, mate.
Thank you.
All right, then we can bring in Mr. Clayton Davies, who helped with that 1-2. Scott Rankin stood by with the number 10.
Mate, Clayton, at the moment, you are starting to become a little bit of a bridesmaid in this one. You are putting it on the podium nice and consistently. Big bank of points tonight, but realistically, I'm starting to wonder, in car 10, victory, not all that far away.
I'm hoping it's not too far away. I think it's a pretty tall ask to beat these two boys on my team that are on this so consistently and always up the front. So to run second to these guys week in, week out is, I'd say, still a good win in my books. I'm kind of just a bit limited on time I can get in on the sim and put some laps together, but I think I'm going to have to log in a lot more laps coming up to the next couple of rounds to be half competitive. They're on the top of their game. I think it's just their world and we're just playing in it.
Their world and playing in it. Mate, you've got them over here racing at stupid o'clock over there in the United States of America in the morning, and all of a sudden they're wiping the floor with you. They wake up, do some sim racing, and then they go for a run and go about their day, and they're all juiced up and feeling well. I think the big thing for you here tonight, obviously tricky track here at Kokomo as well. You've got to get that set up to really, really dialed in, and that track transition quite quickly in terms of in the heats. There's not a lot of time to rip that one out. Great qualifying car, really, really good heat car. And then for me, a little bit of a challenge there from Tim at different points in time, but you were confident. Look, I think the thing at this early stage of the championship, you're making an active decision. I'm comfortable running second here because I've just got to keep putting points on the board. Big points night, particularly compared to Tanner Pettit tonight.
Yeah, again, massive apologies out to Tanner. It was a big racing deal between me and him earlier on the race. I think just getting caught up behind the lap car and me throwing a slider and this place being so aggressive on the road, how tight your corners can be. It's really, you can gain a lot of ground in no time. So a massive apology to him. He was definitely rolling. But yeah, if we are as consistent as what we are when we stop touching each other, I think we're going to be the team to beat. Tim's Tim. You can't ever count him out of a championship. Unless he's getting run over or stuff like that, he's always going to be contending for a win. So I think he's going to keep us honest throughout this championship. And again, you've got three technical World of Outlaw championships in this field just between Tim and Aiden. So stiff competition, and just stoked that I'm still half competitive.
Mate, cracking job out here tonight. P2 getting the job done. Who would you like to thank on board car number 10?
First of all, always got to thank the broadcast. You guys always put on a 5-star broadcast for the whole series, and it gives us a chance to kind of showcase what the best in Australian and American dirt esports can put together. Brady, Liam, Brad, everyone at ODSC for putting on race control and putting the series together, and always been professional about running it. All the team sponsors, TPR setups, Tanner always setting us up in rocket ships and can come back after it. Ages and weeks off and be half competitive and feeling really comfortable. Jimmy P. Mac Tools, 1425 Photography, Aces Up Sim Sport, City Simtography, Trackside Collective, Blake Carrick Racing, Ethan and Jordan over at Free Speed, Simrat Market, my personal sponsors, Atlantic Oil, Western Machine Shop, Alcorn Racing, and yeah, thanks.
Mate, congratulations. Great job on getting it done here tonight. We'll go off and enjoy the celebrations with the teammates. Finally, final interview of the night, heading the way of Reese Gardner, standing on by with car number 98, Logitech G entry with Altus Engineering. It's Tim Ryan.
Indeed. Welcome to the comms box, Tim. Fantastic result for you today. It was not without its bumps in the road, though, in your heat. A case of a lane being left to the right by you, but unfortunately a bit of contact there. Kokomo is just the kind of circuit where those kinds of situations erupt in surplus.
Yeah, I honestly don't think anything will happen there because, I left a lane before the opening, after the opening, didn't drift up. I slid him so far ahead and he went to a closing gap. He come off the wall. So I don't think, and then it was net code. So I really doubt anything will happen there. But that was good. The feature race was actually really fun. Very scary, this place, just to make sure you finish. So Aiden was really quick. I would have loved to see what I probably would have had for him. But me and Tanner come together 2 laps down the front straight. And it gave me a bit of wheel damage. So I was kind of just carrying on from there. Didn't really have anything for him. So, yeah, keen for next week.
Yeah, it was a difficult run for you after the caution, after the last caution period. Baxter Truchet and company all over you, but to come away with a podium at such a bull ring of a track where you had to navigate lapped cars in addition to everything else you have to deal with, you can certainly be happy with that. Lanier is the next round, and it's another track that I think you and the rest of the community are quite familiar and happy with.
Yeah, Linear will be pretty interesting. Don't know what they'll do with the track. They could probably leave it, reset it. And I'll probably put on some good racing. Quite tight, but I feel like you can kind of use the width of the track a little bit better than here. So you can run the bottom and the car's a bit more predictable, no bumps and that. So it normally does put on some really good racing. So yeah, it'll be a very exciting event.
Great points haul today. Tim, is there anyone you want to thank before we let you go?
You guys have put on the broadcast. Well done to Aiden, Clayton on first and second. And yeah, see you guys next week. Or in 3 weeks' time, I think it is.
2 weeks' time is when we'll be racing at Linear. Hopefully we can see you there, Tim.
All right, see you, boys.
Tim Ryan in car number 98 with us there. And that's going to round out our podium interviews. And now we're into the end of show phase, Scott. And, well, I'm pretty happy with how things have gone for me. I'm still P1 for the SimSpeed booth picks, but that is a pretty solid run for you from this one. I believe you've gotten the best points haul out of all of us here tonight.
That I did. I was just looking into some stats out of this one, P2 overall tonight. But the big thing I want to talk about at this point in time is I went and had a look at some stats. And Reese, you're doing a cracking job. So at the moment, Jay Kennedy's sitting over there not doing too well in terms of the way his drafts are going. He's 11th outright. I'm 4th outright in the standings with a total of 7,905. And currently, the outright Speedway draft points leader is Mr. Reese Gardner. Mate, congratulations. What? Picks have been really, really good at the moment. 8,301 points. You are the points leader.
Well, I guess there's something to be said for just clicking buttons and choosing names. Statistically, it can work, and I am proving that. Oh, I'm well chuffed with that. Just makes me look forward to Lanier even more, Scott. As we said, in a fortnight's time, we will be racing at one of the initial raft of dirt ovals on iRacing that was never a dirt oval in the real world. On May the 20th, which is actually my dad's birthday, we'll be seeing Lanier National Speedway play host to the next round of the Sprintcar Pro Invitational Series. We've got the Logitech G V8 Pro Invitational, though, next week at Spa, and then the Moser Porsche Pro Invitational goes to the Nürburgring at the end of May.
Yeah, that one's going to be a challenge as well. Really, really tricky technical racetrack to get behind the wheel of a Porsche. And the big old thing is Porsches in Germany. What's name a more iconic combination as well? So that one's going to be nice and tricky. Really, really wide first sector of that racetrack as well. Doubles back, opportunities to crisscross, opportunities to get technical on the brakes. Do you want to add a whole bunch of rear bias? You can do a whole bunch of stuff. But again, want to say a big shout out to speedwaydraft.com as well. We can't bring you those speedway standings and the draft standings without all the work that's being done behind the scenes. And the Australian Sim Racing Group as well. You know, Wednesday nights, the biggest thing is you have a look at that calendar. Wednesday nights right the way throughout the year. I think there's 4 or 5 of them between now and December that there's not going to be anything on. How cool is that, Reese? The fact that you know that every single Wednesday night you can open up YouTube, go to simspeed.com, go to Australian Sim Racing Group, and you make sure that you've got the best of racing action, be it 8 cylinders, 6 cylinders, or things with cuts in the tyres that lean to the left. How about that, mate?
Yeah, absolutely. It is an absolutely bumper year for sim racing in Australia, and we hope that you can join us for all of them. Mark this date in your calendar if you're interested in keeping up with the sprint cars. The 20th of May is when we'll be running next at Lanier National Speedway from 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Time. That, of course, is 6 p.m. for those of us here in the West. Big thanks, everybody, for tuning in over the course of this broadcast. If you come from YouTube or Facebook or Twitch, whichever platform you found us on, thank you so much for finding us, and we hope that you can make further appearances in the future. My name is Reese Gardner. Scott Rankin alongside me in the commentary box, and Jay Kennedy sitting in the producer's chair. It was all Aiden Forster today here at Kokomo. Will he be able to keep up that form at Lanier? Can anyone beat the force that is Tanner Pettit Racing? I guess we'll have to wait and find out.